first time that you're tuning in, I'm Federica, and today we're going to talk books. In fact, I'm going to show you all the books that I've read in 2024. It's a sort of book wrapped for everything that I did read from January till December. I love reading books. I feel like I've always loved reading books, even when I was a child. And I've been through a couple of slumps, some years in which I did not read much at all. But now it's been like a couple of years or even more than a couple of years, that I've been back at it full time. It's something that I love to do and that relaxes me so much that I thought it could be a nice idea to show you everything that I went through this year. I also started using an app to track everything that I read, which is called Fable. I love to go and search for inspirations for new books, for what people think of books. And they made Spotify, and they made their own rap. And my reader summaries says, "Thriller, heart melter. Your shelf could rival a soap opera at a murder mystery convention. Yet you embrace stories that thrill and feel alike." Without further ado, because I don't want this video to be like 1 hour long, let's get into all my books of 2024. We will start with a banger, with a book that I have to say it is my favorite book ever. This is not the first time that I go and read this book. It's like the third or fourth, and every time that I do read it, I fell in love with it even more. And I'm talking about I Kill by Giorgio Faletti. This one is the Italian edition, so it's called Io Uccido. Set in Monte Carlo, a killer is on a killing spree, and he announces his crime, calling a radio station, leaving clue and just saying I kill. I feel like Faletti is able to take you fully into his world. It looks like you are deep in the Monte Carlo street and deep in the investigations they are doing. This book makes me also even more want to go and explore the Côte d'Azur, and it's also full of turns and twists. Really, you guys, if you did not, go and pick this book up, because the best ever. We then have this book here called The Marriage Portrait by Maggie Farrell. It's basically the true story of Lucrezia de Medici, adapted and sort of fictionized by the word of the author. Lucrezia is a 15 years old that is forced to marry a much older man, Alfonso d'Este, and since she is forced to marry and the marriage is for political alliances, her life turns upside down. Also because her husband brings her away from her house, and from that point on she's subject to a lot of very nasty things happening to her. This one is definitely a slow burn. It's a very slow book, but what I feel like is very interesting is that it shows what her life also could have been. It's full of what ifs. It's full of what could have happened if her real life did not turn out to be the tragedy that it actually was. Definitely one of the best books I've read this year. I then picked out a book that has been on the mouth of everyone, read by almost everyone, and I'm talking about The The Silent Patient by Alexis Michaelides. Elisha Berenson, a painter, murders her husband of 7-year Gabriel, and from that point on she just decides not to talk and does not give an explanation on why she did murder her husband. It's a very flowy psychological book, not extremely descriptive or not as much as I would have loved it to be. If you did not get that, I love very descriptive book, both in sense of actions and the surrounding. The only thing is that I don't feel like this book it's completely gripping. I wouldn't give it like more than 3 stars. It's a nice book, an interesting book that just doesn't let me say wow, you know? But it's nice, a nice little read. And then I reread a book that I did already read a couple of years ago, and I'm talking about Diana, her story in her true word. Basically her sort of official, non-official autobiography written by Andrew Morton. While it's true that Lady Diana will be always remembered as one of the most influential, charismatic, fashionable, interesting and caring personalities that graced planet Earth, this biography shows how raw and full of challenges and unhappiness her life has really been. I feel like this book makes you understand how much she did suffer since the moment she married. I don't think I need to go more into detail about this. It's such a nice book, such an unfiltered, raw book. I just wanted to pick it up again and read it, and yeah. I'm no fast reader by any means. It takes me time to go through a book because I generally read in the evening after work or during the weekend, but I'm not a fast reader also because I like to take my time enjoying a book. But this next book here, you guys, it's true that it is a very light read, extremely light read. If you want something light, then you can go for this one. And I read it in like 3 days. And I'm talking about The Perfect Tale by Elísabet Benavent. This one, it's called Il racconto perfetto. Has, when I wanted to read it, there was no English version, just the Italian one, so I went ahead and grabbed this, also because it was before the Netflix series dropped. And let me tell you, the book it's much better than the series, even though also the series it's very light, but it's basically the story of Margot, a girl that can be considered a sort of modern princess with a rich family, a perfect job, and also the perfect fiancé that has a sort of panic attack during or before a wedding, and she just runs away and calls it off because she does not know what she wants. And this leads her a couple of days later to meet David, a much younger, handsome and fun bartender with who she just flies away. She just flies away to Greece to just leave all the issues away. It's basically 2 very heartbroken people that want to live their summer in a nice way. I like this book so much. It's full of nice things. It's full of nice vibes, but it's full of like also love tribulations and like that. Nice read to just like get ready for summer vibes, I'd say. And for the next book, I go back to thrillers. I read The Last by Hanna Jameson. It's a post-apocalyptic thriller that's set in the Swiss Alps, in which numerous survivors of a nuclear war struggle to stay alive. They are all in a secluded hotel in the middle of the forest, and if it was not enough, there is a suspect murder on the loose. So I'd say an hotel deep in the Swiss Alps should be the perfect place where to set a psychological post-apocalyptic thriller. But unfortunately, in this book, I did not find any kind of thrill or suspense. It was not completely engaging to me. I felt like it went a bit too fast for my likings, and the last bit of the book had a sort of unexpected turn that I did not engage with. Okay, so for the next one, I've always loved Fairies. I've always loved wizarding world, the magical world. So I grabbed this book here, which is called Emily's Wilde Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Faucett. Basically, it's the story of a professor, Emily Wilde, that journeys in a secluded town up north to study fairies folklore. And in this book, she discovers not just the fairies world, both light and dark magic, but also love, friendships, and it is really like a very enchanting, warming story. Very descriptive. I love the description of the world and the little town she's in. I read this book in May, but it's actually a winterish book, a very cozy, warming book. I very much like this book. The only thing I noticed is that the end was quite a bit too rushed for my liking, but I have no complaints. Also, I know that this is the first one of like a 3-part series, so I will probably go ahead and buy the other twos, because a little of magic, it's always so nice. A little bit of folklore, it's always appreciated by yours truly, that's me. The next book that I grabbed, it's called This Other Heaven by Paul Harding. It's basically a very powerful historical novel about the last days of a tiny, racially integrated community off the coast of Maine, sort of evicted from the island by the government. The inhabitants of this island are extremely poor, angry, lawless, incestuous, and this story is full of abuse and neglect. It's inspired by a true story of the island of Malaga. It's definitely a tragic book. It's interesting thanks to its gentle yet extremely harsh way in which the story is told. But I personally did not get into this book at all because the writing, it's not my style. The prose, I found the prose extremely difficult to follow. Extremely difficult. And then the book is not long. It's a very short book, but it took me so much to get through it. So it's my issue, because I have an issue with this kind of, it's a very hard and pompous, I would call it, writing, and yeah, I mean, but the story, it's truly a deep one. Okay, so you guys, we have now two summer reads from the same author, which is Carley Fortune. I started with Every Summer After and then went with This Summer Will Be Different. But let's start from the first one that I read, which is Every Summer After. It's a very heartwarming and emotional story about Persephone Percy Fraser, who spends her summers in her family's lake house and develops a really strong and deep connection with a local boy called Sam. We follow her through like 6 or more summers from where she was a teenager and going up in the years, and it's basically an amazing summer read with quite a few bits of sadness to it. It's basically a story about first love, distance, betrayals, promises, and much more. I loved the feelings that this book gave of, hazy afternoons by the lakes, slow swims, adventures, and the warm summer nights. And I liked this book so much that I went on and grabbed This Summer Will Be Different. In this book, Lucy takes a last-minute trip to Prince Edward Island, where Felix, a local guy, just basically shows her a very, very good time. The only issue is that Lucy does not know that Felix is her best friend brother. Basically follow Lucy and Felix during several summers where they keep on meeting each other. What can I tell you? I mean, a summer escape to Prince Edward Island where a man with thick, wavy hair shucks oysters open for you. What can I tell you more? Like, the perfect summer, you guys, the perfect summer. After very light yet extremely interesting summer reads, I wanted something that was thrilling. So I grabbed the Shards by Bret, Easton, Ellis, which is the author of American Psycho. In this book, Bret, which is the narrator of the book, tells the stories of events that occurred during his senior year of high school in 1981. It's basically what happens between his group of friends and these new guys that joins their school called Robert Mallory and the tragedy that follows. It's a beautifully written book, extremely slow at times and extremely descriptive. That's what I love the most, hence why I loved this book. It's also darkly funny and you feel like you're being brought directly to an upscale world, an upscale LA life of a group of teens in the 80s. Everything that we read, everything that we go through in this book, it's through the eyes of Bret, the narrator, which through the book we came to realization it's absolutely an unreliable narrator. The main protagonist of the book, Bret, it's called like Bret Easton Ellis, but this book it's all fiction. Reading it, you could think that it's a sort of biography of the author, but it's actually not. It's just fiction, as we are told right at the end of the book, where it says that this is entirely a work of fiction. But so good. I mean, if you like very long descriptive books in which basically very few things happen, then this is the book for you and also the book for me. My October book was a collection of murder mysteries. This book is called Murder at the Manor, Country House Mysteries, edited by Martin Edwards. It's basically a collection of stories set in the English countryside and in countryside manors. I mean, the perfect read for the October month. And in this collection we have renowned authors such as Arthur Conan Doyle, but also little gems written by a little less known writers. A special mention is the story wrote by Ina Ethel White called An Unlocked Window, in which basically three women spend the night in a very secluded manor deep in the countryside where a murder has been reported on the loose. We have another thriller that I would call a sort of gothic thriller, and I'm talking about The Only One Left by Riley Sager. In this we meet Kit McDear, a caregiver that right after 6-month work suspension is assigned and take a job as the caregiver of the elderly and invalid Lenora Hope, who has been accused decades earlier to have killed her entire family. If I could describe this book with two adjectives, would be old money and sinister atmosphere. There is this ongoing feeling of something paranormal happening from start to end of the book. Even though descriptive, it took me a while to get into this one. Then a plot twist that I did not see coming in the way that it did really got me into wanting to finish it and understanding what happens. I mean, I feel like it's a very interesting take of a family in which there is absolutely no love in it, but it's just like all the money. It's just all the money, you know, just money and business. We now have the last book of the year. I would have loved to tell you that we finished with a banger, but unfortunately this last book that I picked, called A Day in December by Josie Silver, has been a very big letdown. So let's say that I did grab this book here because the premise of it was extremely good. I mean, a girl falls in love with a guy she sees 3 seconds, literally 3 seconds, while she is on a bus. It's basically a book that centers around a love story that could have been but was not. The issue that I had with this book is everything that followed, how the story really developed. It was not gripping, not interesting. There is no trace of desire, of want, of, you know, I mean, as I told you, it's a book about a love story that could have been, but has not been. Not gripping, no emotions in my opinion. Also on Fable, this book has such an high rating that I gave it, you guys, 2 stars. 2 stars, and I also have been very generous with it, I have to say. But unfortunately not my cup of tea. And it's not basically a Christmas read or a winter read. It's just called One Day in December because when they do see each other for the first time, it's December. But that's it. That's it. this is it, you guys. These are all the 14 books that I've read throughout my 2024. It is kind of hard for me to tell you which one is my fave. A special mention, as already told you, goes to I Kill by Giorgio Faletti, all-time fave. But to be completely honest, I also very much loved the Portrait Marriage, the Shards, and both the Carley Fortunes one. So I have to say that maybe these ones, oh my gosh, these ones are the ones that I enjoyed the most. Yeah, I feel like these fives are my faves of the year. I don't know what 2025 will bring me, you know. I already know which will be my first read of the year. And I'm talking about a book that I just received, this one. It's called You Like It Darker by Stephen King. It's a collection of 12 stories, and I'm very curious to see what this book is all about. But if you want to keep up with everything that I am reading, I will leave you down below my Fable nickname, my Fable and all, so that you can just see what I will be reading, and you can also see all the comments that I've wrote for the 14 books that I've read this year, because I love to leave little comment of what I think. Basically, it's just what I also told you here, but maybe it could be interesting for you. But I would love to just wrap up this video with what Fable has to say about my reading experience of the year. From royal revelations to mind-bending mysteries, your ear started explosively. A lakeside love, fairy secrets, and a chilling Eden. Your mid-ear was magical. Murder mysteries and summer escapes, you thrived on suspenseful allure. You wrapped up with faithful romances and chilling thrillers, pure page-turning bliss.